So, mastering dynamic scenarios creation for financial and business plans. It's a mouthful, but the concept is I'm going to take this out of the general way we teach it. So usually we do this as something in between some other tasks. So if you're building a financial model, we want to add different scenarios. Sometimes I'm building a business plan, we want to add different scenarios. So today I decided that I'm going to let the focus be on this by itself. We're going to start with an empty Excel file. From amongst us, I'm hoping to get some ideas from people on what they would like to plan around. So this can be used for anything that involves planning. It's not necessarily a financial model. It could be you want to build a house. It could be you want to, anything that involves planning for something that you want to do in the future. Then what I want to take us through is going to show you a very robust, dynamic way of incorporating different scenarios into your plan. I'm going to start immediately with the Excel. And a blank Excel file. Okay, so we're going to create, let me start with mine. So I'll create I'll start with my own idea, I'll create like a business plan that involves, we want to, so let's say we are here. Let me look at those of us that are here. So let's say Michael, in fact, let me use our acronym. So MAOA Limited. So those of us that are here, I'm using our names as the name of the company. Imagine that you are starting up an entity where you're looking at what are the things you're going to incur, what are the things you need to do. So let's say it's a fintech. That's what is getting a lot of attention right now. Both good and bad. So if we decided that, we are going into fintech, and what we are doing is we're going to get number of users. So the users that we're going to get, let's say we are going to get users per month. Okay, so let's say this is January 2022. Maybe this is going to start from next year. The users that we are planning to acquire, users, let's call it new users. Okay, and then we are going to also say the active transactions. New users, recurring users, users, new users, active users, transactions, average transactions per month. Every month, what's the average transactions they are doing? The new users, some old users that are active, and average transactions per month. I hope you, Temidai, I can see you are in. Can you help me verify if my audio and screen is all very clear?
Yeah, your audio is visible.
Okay, great.
Experience also.
Okay, great. So if you see, there's a pattern to what I'm creating. This is a pattern that goes for many software as a service. So let's say this is a fintech company. What's the average transactions per month, new users we acquire, and then what's the customer acquisition cost? What's going to be our monthly recurring revenue? So we'll create another one for a different type of entity, but let's start with, I see that some of those in here are not into a regular manufacturing company. So that's why I decided to start with the fintech structure. So if we say, when we start this business, to start next year, I use their names. So if we say we are planning on acquiring 500 new users every month up until May, and then with our marketing and word of mouth and all, we're going to do a very big launch. We're going to do a very huge launch that we hope to get 5,000 users. And then after that, it tapers down to maybe 750. And then slows down again, then it goes up due to organic growth, and then it goes up to 1,000. So there are different ways people plan how they want to acquire their users, new users. So what about the active users? Okay, we could say historically 70% users you acquire will eventually make a trade that period. So I could say 70% of the users we get will be active. Again, you need to read into similar businesses, what the industry is like. So the thing is now, this number, it becomes, again, how many users we get this last period that were active. So we could say there is a churn, a natural churn rate of 10%, and then we get these new users who have a higher inactivity rate of 70%. Okay, again, every business will think of how they are going to work out, but the key thing is we can use this as a logic to say this is how many users, and then I can tell Excel that I want to always make this a whole number. So I can say it should be integer. And then I can also say that I don't want this to have all this decimal. There's no fractional user. We can just drop off all the decimal parts. Okay. Okay, so good. Now we've come up with a model to say, let me add a space in here. Not a worry, let's leave it that way. So what's the average transaction value that they do every month? So let's say what we are into is a kind of a financial savings and transactions platform where we are a broker. We connect people. Oh, Falashade says you can see my screen. I'm going to reshare my screen. What about now? I hope it's visible, right?
And your screen has been visible through.
Okay. Guess it was something just on our side. And then, so let's say on average, they do a transaction value of 10,000, I don't know, maybe 20,000 naira average transaction value. Okay. And what's the customer acquisition cost? The customer acquisition cost, let's say it costs us 300 naira to acquire a new customer, right? And then what's now the monthly recurring revenue? So the monthly recurring revenue is going to be how many active users we get, and then times the average transactions that we get from them. So what I'm going to do is quickly make all of this. Make this comma style. Okay, good. And then I'm going to drag this. So I will try to do different examples. So this is going to be one example. So this is going to be one example of a fintech. Now let's talk about another kind of venture or activity. So let's say a manufacturing, you are into manufacturing. Manufacturing company. So for a manufacturing company, what are the different things that you will find as things that you have to plan for? So number one is the volume of items you're producing, right? So if you're manufacturing things that you're going to be selling in pieces, then great, that's very easy. If you're manufacturing things that will be bagged in different sizes, if you're manufacturing cement, usually they plan per ton because you can bag it in any way, but your cost per ton or package is always the same. If you're manufacturing fertilizer, if you're manufacturing those things where there are some things that you just have to find, like even in the brewery, they will do per hectoliter. So every manufacturing company knows what is very constant thing to be the denominator for both their pricing and their cost computing. So let me look for something that's. Can somebody give us an example of what you would like me to? Maybe you run a business. What should I use as a kind of business that is in manufacturing to create a breakdown of revenue and cost for? Going one. What?
Cement.
Oh, great. So let's do for cement then. So for cement, it's always how many tons produced. If you pull up Lafarge, pull up Dangote, pull up Sona, there's this other one in a Francophone West African country. They all use the same underlying metric. So I found out it's always per ton. So let's call about the volume you produce, or it's volume like ton. Yeah, anyway. So production volume, like I said, it's in tons. And then the cost per ton, price we want to set per ton. Okay. So with that, you can begin to come up with how much you're going to make gross wise and how much you're going to spend cost wise. So I'm going to move to another one. If you're into consulting. For those of us in consulting, there are two common ways. So there's the one way is you're doing a markup. So there's the one where we're saying how many deals. The deals can be different words. For training to be how many training. For someone who is selling a service that is, for instance, a business development service. So deals is like a generic term that covers most of that. And so you could always say, what's your margin? People, that's how what's the margin, the markup? What's the cost? When you cost, how much is going to cost you to put the deal together? You are an event planner, right? You fall under here because what you're offering is more like a professional service. You have this knowledge of event planning. And so what do? You itemize all that it will cost to manage events. So let me say even event planning. So you itemize all the costs you incur in setting up the event and everything, and then you had your own margin on top. And so when the client when you give the submit your proposal or you give your costing and they want to see the visibility. Yeah, if you're in that kind of a relation, if you are in that setting where you need to do breakdown, they always understand that you had your margin, right? And if it's a case where you don't need to, like for us in training, you're not going to ask us, oh, the 50K you are paying, the 100K you are paying for training, how can you show me the breakdown? Nobody will ask us, but there are some deals, there's some consulting company that they need to have it broken down that way. But the key thing is everybody looks for a margin. So we know for in training space, we know what is the LD margin to have. Anything below that, we probably don't want to do it. And then I know those in business development, kind of consulting, those in event planning, those in project management, everybody does something similar. So we do a project costing, how much it is going to cost us. Even companies as big as oil services firm, that's how they do their breakdown. So what are all the costs we're going to incur in terms of service, human resources, capital expenditure, and other things we're going to spend on. And then let's add our own comfortable margin on top. So it's always like that. So I think this 3 is good enough for us to use. So I'm going to just plug in some figures here. Because of time, right? I will just plug in the same amount of tons. We're going to be producing 800, which goes to 850. So I'll just keep the pattern same. I'll give us this file when we are done. So what's the cost per ton? Maybe this cost per ton is going to be in the. See, we are all from different. I don't know. I see some names that don't sound Nigerian. So let me see USD is for now like the global currency until Bitcoin takes over. So let's say it's going to cost us 20 USD per ton, and then we plan to sell at 50 USD per ton. I don't know too much about how they do the price of cement on that ton level. Ton is 1,000 kg. That's good. So that's supposed to be a lot higher. Maybe this would be 120, and this would be 250. Okay. Then deals. So we could, we're just starting. We'll get 3 deals in the first month. We get 4 or 5 deals. We get 7 deals. Maybe I keep up that pattern. And then towards the end of the year, things begin to wind down. If I just get the 10 deals. So what's I forgot to put another thing, average deal value. So I'm going to put the same amount all throughout. So I can say the average deal value is 5 million naira. Or let's use 2 million. And then what's the margin so now the margin for most businesses in the consulting space, you don't give the customer a price and then now add your margin and say it pays it separate. That is good for those who are in agency kind of business. Even agency business, in the end, it's better you plan it with the overall amount. Imagine you are a real estate agent. You don't tell someone, you say, oh, the land is going to cost you 5 million naira, right? But then you pay me my margin, you pay this, you pay that. So you find out that for you in the agency place, in that agency kind of space, you can say it's costing 2 million, then your own margin of 10% is on top and it's outside of it. But it's not generally across all consulting space that kind of planning is responsible, or it's a good way to plan. Because as a business, right, now let's talk about the agency, the real estate agent. most of the times you are not paid to the real estate agent, right? You pay maybe to the landlord, then you pay the landlord will not give the agent his own cut, right? So naturally, it's only the agent gets only his own portion in his own account. So that's why that might make sense for him to plan that way. But if I am in a consulting business where same approach, I do the costing, maybe I'm a building contractor. I do the costing of how much it's going to cost me to build you that event planning facility or to build you a commercial real estate facility. And it's going to cost 20 million, let's say 40 million naira to build that thing. And what do? Am I going to plan it in my own internal planning that, oh, it's 40 million naira, that is the deal size? No. If I know that I always have 20% as my own margin on top, which means I'm going to invoice the client 40 million naira plus 8 million naira. So I'm invoicing the client 48 million naira. Then that is my average deal size. It is not the 40 million naira that's the cost. Why? When the customer pays me, he's paying me that 48 million naira. I'm the one who knows internally that out of the 48, 40 is going to go into executing the project. 8 million is what is left to service my overhead and profits and whatever take home I'm going to have. So usually you find that most businesses are structured this other way because it's better when you have all the money. Not that you do the job, somebody collects the money, then you chase the person to give you your own cut. So if we use that contractors at their pattern, then the margin, if you say your margin is 20%, then that margin is going to come out from the entire money. That's why I'm just explaining this. So in case you are having stuff like this that you need to model for, you need to factor in. What do I mean by factoring? Inclusive, if it's just temporary, the real estate model, the real estate agent's approach, right? Means that the margin is on top of this. On top of this. Okay. But the other one I gave, the construction contractor, it means this is inclusive of the margin. So it means this is used to that inclusive. I think it's times this, then divided by 1 plus. So this is his own profits. It sounds somehow, this is how we used to do it in VAT. There are some people when they write their invoice, they write it exclusive of VAT, some write it inclusive of VAT. This is the same logic. Let me just break it down for you. This one is very straightforward. Nobody will get this one confused. This is the one where if I'm quoting 2 million to you, out of the 2 million, I know that 20% is my margin, my markup. Okay. So what that means is whatever you are paying me, so it means that the 2 million is going to be the actual costs plus my margin, okay, or markup, whatever terminology you prefer, okay? So if you think about this one, right, it means that this is my markup, what I added on top of my profit margin, and what is left, this minus this, is the actual costs. Is the actual costs, right? Right? So which means if you have done 20% on this times 20%, I should get the same value. Well, so the shortcut formula we used to use is that value Let me write it here. Value or total amount times the margin or markup, right, as a percentage, divided by 1 plus the margin as a percentage. So this gets you, so that's what I did here. This times this divided by 1 plus this, and so just have that in mind. Anytime you are starting to do business, there is a partnership and you need to share the money. You need to know, are we sharing the money? How are we sharing the money? Is my share out of the total amount or my share is on top of the total amount? So let's quickly do the scenarios. So to do the scenarios, there are multiple ways that people create scenarios, right? There's the number one, easy to find if you're just looking through Excel, what if analysis, and then you see scenario manager. But that is not dynamic. If you use scenario manager, anytime you want to change things, you have to still go and run scenario manager all over. So we want to create a dynamic scenario. Dynamics. So I like to use a drop down. So I like to go to developer. If you don't have developer, you go to options, you go to add-ins. You go to customize ribbon, and then you turn on developer. If you don't have it, just remember, go to file, options, customize ribbon on this left, right side, look for developer and turn it on. Make sure it is ticked. So that will get it done for you. You click OK. So since I have it turned on, I'm not going to do that again. So you will see developer here. If I come here, I like to use a combo box. Some people use data validation. I use it sometimes, but nowadays for my commercial work, I use this one because this one is very obvious. You know, data validation, until you go in there, you will not know there is a drop down there. So let's say we do what most people usually do. We do 3 scenarios: optimistic, conservative, I'm looking for pessimistic. So I right click on this. I say I want to format the control, and then I want the input range to be this. Okay. And where do I want the value to reflect? So I want the value to reflect, and I want the value to reflect somewhere temporarily. For now, it doesn't matter where you put, just make sure you put it, you make it reflect on somewhere. Cell link is where the value will reflect, the option picked will reflect. Make it somewhere that nobody will go overwrite it. So that's the only key thing. So from that moment onwards, this will carry the options. And when you pick the first option, you see 1 over there, 2 over there, 3 over there, okay? So now how are we going to link all these options together? So let's start with the fintech, okay? Now, if you look at every plan, in every business, you will have 2 categories of inputs. There will be what I call major inputs that they determine by large amounts what is going to happen, and they are the ones that maybe can determine the success and failure of what you're doing. So if you look at this business now, right? If we begin to try to color what we can say are the major inputs. For me, if you are a fintech, the active users you have are a very major input. Your average transaction value is another input. The more the volume of transactions you're able to get out from people, the better for you. And your customer acquisition cost is another major input. So how much it's costing you to get a new customer. If you're able to strike a deal with some other people who can be naturally sending customers your way, and you're able to get it at less than 300 naira, awesome. Okay, so these are the major inputs. Let's go think about the product manufacturing company. If you think about it, everything here is a major. You know, how much quantity they are producing, what cost to produce per ton, how much to sell per ton. And then if you go into this one, the consulting company, to the deals, the average deal value, the margin, everything here is a major input. So based on my identifying what are the major inputs in my plan, then I come in here. So let's start with the fintech. Come in here, except for this fintech. I'm going to start modeling for every of the major inputs. Create scenarios for them. I'm going to create scenarios for them. So I'm going to create these 3 different scenarios, right? And then I want them to reflect for all the different years. So you see, so I want the scenarios to reflect for the different years. Okay, so what are we saying? I usually write a note to explain the logic of where the figure is coming from. So I can say conservative is coming from the input sheet. Okay. So which means conservative to me is coming directly from here. Coming directly from here. And then what do I want as pessimistic, as optimistic? So one common rule of thumb is, what if we do 10% better? What if instead of we getting 10 people, we got 11 people? What if, so 10% looks like a very kind of easy to apply logic and say, what if cost shoots up 10% more? What if we're able to have a 5% or 10% cost savings? So for me, for things that are not sticky either side, what do I mean by sticky either side? Cost in Nigeria here is sticky downwards, flexible upwards. So you could say, oh, what if our cost goes up 20%? But I don't expect you to say, what if our cost goes down 20%? Because usually here in Nigeria, costs don't go down that much. They can go up crazy high. So you want to also let your model reflect that. But for these active users, I'm going to say they are perfectly symmetrical. Like they could go as much up as could come down. So I'm going to say 10% minus 10% downwards. Okay. So which means, oh, cool. Thanks, Peter. You say you're joining from Uganda. That's nice. Nice to have you here. Thanks for giving us the suggestion of using a cement company. Okay, so if I say this goes up 10%, means if I say this times 1 plus whatsoever I've put in here, okay? I'm going to make this sticky column-wise. Okay, and like I told us, we can't have users that are fractional. So one way of removing all the fractional part is by wrapping it in int. So integer, which is int, strips off the decimal part. So it's a very nice way to chop off whatever fractional part. I'm going to repeat similar formula. Integer this times to bracket 1 plus the growth rate, make it sticky column wise, like it shouldn't move about column wise. Yes, help me with that. I forgot to close the last bracket, so it has done that for me. So good. I'm going to also do like this for all the other ones, but let's finish for this. Okay, so you can see how quickly you can apply one thing you've done in one place in other places. So what do I want? I wanted that if you pick pessimistic, then you should use these figures. You should use the pessimistic figures. If you pick optimistic, you should use these optimistic figures. And if you pick conservative, you should use the conservative figures, right? So I need a formula that's going to look at all these options. And depending on the option you pick, which option number will reflect it. If you pick optimistic, I'm going to have option number 1 here. The formula should give me what is in the first of my options. And if you pick option number 2, what's here, and so you get the whole idea. The formula is indexed. There are many formulas, but this is my favorite now. Before it used to be another, but this is the, for me now, I think this is the best formula to use. So index allows me to specify all of the available options. There are 3, right? And then what option number is the user indicated. I'm going to make that one permanently fixed so that it doesn't move about. The option number is always here. And that is it. Okay, so just take a look at it again. Index the option numbers, comma, what the user has specified, and that's all. So I'm going to drag this here and maybe make this comma style so it looks easier to read. And this is it. Okay, so if you come in here, you change it to pessimistic, you see these values, they reflect that change. Now, all of what I've done here is what I'm going to just grab. In fact, I'm going to grab it this way, dump it here. Insert, copy cell, grab it again. Here. And I'm going to go and grab the conservative from here. Average transaction value. Then I'm going to grab the customer acquisition cost 2 from here. So the thing with this one is the other way around. Optimistic means you're able to keep costs down. So I'm going to turn this to minus and turn this to plus. Pessimistic means you go above your intended costs. Okay. So once I do this, let me just say it financial performance. This is the 54th edition. It's amazing. And I'm just going to grab this. Maybe I'll do it one more so that at least you get the whole structure. Let me just do it one. Index, right? The options, comma, what option number you are selecting. Okay, so voila. Now that I've done it the second time, not intending to do it a third time, so I'm just going to dump it here. Okay, so I'm going to then toggle this, and you see how they change, right? So what's the whole usefulness of this? The usefulness of this is if I'm doing our financials, profit or loss, are we making profits or loss statements? Right? How do we naturally do this? Is it not to say, so let's start with the fintech. Not to say, what's the revenue? What's the expenses? Then let's talk about gross profits. I'm careful not to use high sounding terms. Okay, so let's just keep it at this for now. Okay. I'm going to come here, grab the years. I'm going to come here and dump that. Okay, so for the fintech, revenue is going to be equal to how many active users we have, people transacted that day, that month, right? Times what's the average transactions they did. Voila. We'll get us the revenue, right? Then what about the expenses? It's also similar. How many users? Just that the expenses here is, no, it's not similar. Let me quickly bring it down. Let me call this the input. Let me bring it out. So there's this scale advantage every software as a service company enjoys. If I'm a recurring customer, for instance, for Netflix, I'm a recurring customer. They are not spending to acquire me again. I'm part of that customers that keeps coming back every month. So the money they are spending is to get new customers. Then out of those new customers, some will just naturally, they call them churn. They will naturally just fall by the wayside. They will not come back for whatsoever reasons, right? So you always want to get enough new customers to replace those that did not go so that you maintain your revenue. And at the same time, still get additional on top to expand so that you have a positive customer count growth. Okay, so when we talk about the cost is actually attached to new customers you're getting. So that's why if you are starting, you spend a lot more. If you are operating that kind of a business software as a service, you need to spend a lot more at the start to get new customers, and then maybe putting a lot of good processes, data-driven processes to keep them, those customers, to keep them, to not let them go away so that you don't have to go and spend so much to acquire new customers again just to maintain the same number of customers. I don't know if you use DSTV, you will notice that they are now used to calling, they can call you and SpectraNet, and almost all of them, they are waking up to that new, everybody is using data these days. So they are understanding that it's a lot cheaper for us to ensure that the customers we have, they keep buying than to go and tell somebody who does not even have the dish. Where are you going to start from? You have to defend to him why he needs to buy the dish, why he needs to spend that amount of money to buy the coder. Versus you just telling me, hey, we noticed that you have not renewed, what if, we have a new plan that you will like, you watch Big Brother Nigeria, you watch Big Sister Africa. Anyway, the concept is the cost of acquisition and the new users are the two things that are going to multiply themselves to give me the expenses for this fintech. So I'm going to say the new users times the cost of acquisition that gets started. And here it's going to give us this minus this. Okay. There was something I was mentioning that I didn't tell us completely. Maybe for Netflix, awesome, whatever the customers pay is completely what they will have. But there are some people who your business line is like a brokerage. Like brokerage means you're only getting a portion of this amount. For instance, if I'm an insurance broker, even if I broker a 20,000 naira per month premium payment insurance policy, that 20,000 is not mine. As a software as a service business, that's not our own entire money. So it could be a portion of it. So our commission or our portion of it, let me call it our portion of the money. The same thing to if I'm doing financial inclusion and I say, oh, pay for your DSTV, pay for your NEPA, your PHCN, your electricity bill, pay for, and just because you spend 20,000 naira to pay for electricity bill does not mean that that's our money. We have to give a larger chunk, almost all that money back to PHCN, to Ikeja Electric. So most times they are in very small single digits, maybe like be 2.5%, could be, let me just be nice and say it's 10%. Okay. So what that means is that the monthly recurring revenue and the actual revenue, let me just put it this way, has to factor in that all the money is not ours. What stays with us is just a portion. If you use Flutterwave, if you use Paystack, they always show you what their own portion is. So if your customer pays you 100,000 naira via Flutterwave, okay, 1.5% plus maybe 200 naira is what Flutterwave will deduct. So it's a very common thing in fintech. Okay, so I'm going to adjust these formulas to reflect that. Okay, so now that that is done, we are going to see how all of this impacts just in the formula that shows the scenario, current scenario. What's the current scenario that we are running right now? Conservative. So if I come in here, let's take a look at this. This is so this is the profit, right? If I come in here and I change this to optimistic, these figures here will change. You see, everything has changed. Let's do a screenshot. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to paste it as an image. I don't know what Microsoft has done to their program these days now. When I open and close, everything opens, all the things that I had closed before. Good. So let's keep this memory. So we can see this, right? Now I'm going to go back here, switch this to a different scenario, pessimistic, and let's come in here. Can you see that this is completely different? The figures here have changed. So that's what makes this dynamic. The fact that if you change anything here, you don't have to manually do any other thing in your output sheets. They will pick those changes, okay? So let's do for one more. Let's do for, so let me ask you, between this manufacturing and the consulting one, which one do you want? Who do you want me to do for? I can only do one, looking at our time. Anybody wants to suggest? Should I do for a manufacturing, this one, or should I do for the deal ones, the ones where we are doing a markup, an average deal size? Waiting for an answer.
Manufacturing.
The manufacturing, great. So let's do for the manufacturing. So for the manufacturing, you'll see how I can be a lot quicker with this now that you've gotten the structure, okay? What are the three things that I want to create scenarios around. I'm going to put them here. Then I'm going to create the space, 3 scenarios, 2 spaces to allow for what are the scenarios, optimistic, pessimistic, blah, blah. And then I know that's what I'm going to do again. So I'm just going to copy all of this and paste here, start copied cell and paste here again. So the body is almost out. And then I could use the same logic of this 10% up and down. The same logic. It's the same logic. Costs. Remember what I said? That cost can be sticky downwards. So optimistic might even be that we are just 5% or 3% saving, while pessimistic can be a lot serious, like cost goes up by 10%. Okay, and so let's follow this then. I go here and pick the production volume. I drag it all the way to the right. I say this is equal to whatever it is on our base middle case plus what we are saying is the upside percentage increase that we want to factor in for an optimistic case. And that's it. And I'm going to do likewise, but I need to make this one sticky. Same thing here, times 1 plus what it would be here, make the R sticky. And then what option you pick becomes what are the different options available and what is the option number you have selected. Okay, that's it. I make this to the right. I can copy all of this, paste here, paste here. Then what do I change? Simple. Change where this is coming from to pick the right thing. Then let me make this all comma style. In fact, everything comma style. And that one is done. Equally, I change for the price, where the price is coming from. And voila, this too is done. And we're going to do similar to what we did here. I grab all of this, paste it, call this the manufacturing company. And revenue is going to be equal to volume we produce times price per ton. Expenses is going to be equal to volume we produce times cost per ton. And with that information, I'm able to pull out the gross profits. Okay. And like we did, if you come in here and change this to any of the scenarios, you will notice that these figures adjust accordingly. Okay. So this is what I mean by any plan you have. So I don't want to take too much time. If you are done for this consulting company, I will have just say maybe you're an event planner. Right? This works for you. What's the overall size of the deal? What's usually your margin works? And also, if you're into, when we talk about manufacturing company, it's not just manufacturing in terms of, I'll give you an example. So I sell coupons. I have a business that sells coupons. Coupons, I'm not manufacturing the coupon. So manufacturing / retail. Let me use that word, to retail. So if you are modeling for a supermarket now, this is very much likely the approach to. So what's the units of the products they are selling? What's the cost? What's the price they are selling at? And then from there you will see. So if the supermarket does that deal, might not, again, cost is very sticky. So it might be price that, even price is sticky too, but you might find a way. There are many creative ways you can make your price. If I tell you some of what supermarkets do, you'll be amazed. So it's one of my teachers who is teaching me through some machine learning, because she was explaining, and some other places too, I came about how supermarkets can be very flexible with pricing. I'll give you an example. You go into a supermarket. So what they do is, naturally, they put the things you like to buy frequently. They put it at the back. So things like Coke, Fanta, sugar, salt, drinks, they will be at the back, so that you will pass through a whole lot of other things before you get there. So now another thing they do is this. People are not, I don't see anybody who wants to buy egg in a supermarket, or let me say wants to buy something very small, and he goes to the scanner and is scanning that one, right? So they know the things people like to scan, the ones they don't scan, right? So the ones they don't scan, they will sell it higher than what people have bought from the roadside person, from even a bookie outside, or sorry, essentially museum. But you get what I mean. The people that you feel they should not be able to source things as cheap as supermarket, right? But then they sell higher than them, because why? People buy that frequently. People are not price sensitive to it. They don't put any price sticker on it. People will naturally, it's embarrassing. You take a piece of egg, point it at this thing, you want to see how much it is, or so they know some things people are not price sensitive about. So great, those ones they don't. I'm just saying egg for an example. I know usually egg is great, but you get the whole pattern. It might even be ice cream, might be something that people naturally will not go and check. And then what do? The ones that they know you like to check, so they will do a price drop on those ones. They don't mind even breaking even on that, like selling just at the very same amount that they bought it. And why are they doing that? If they know that when you check that one and you see that the price is a lot cheaper than what you will have bought if you had gone to Idumota or gone to Oshodi or gone to like a very popular market yourself, you begin to have this feeling of every other thing is that cheap. So you begin to even buy the things that ordinarily you will not, maybe like shoes, like clothes, things that you would rather go to a proper, open market. You'll be like, these guys are very reasonable in their pricing. Now you don't know they are cutting your neck off by doing some of all those. So anyway, the thing I'm bringing out is they can be a lot more strategic with their pricing, because of all those many other things. Then with the loyalty card, and there's some other things they do that makes it that they can, almost like an airline, have people pay prices that you don't even know what you've paid sometimes, until you're the kind of person that looks at the thing they scan, the receipt at the end. That's when you'll be amazed by how much off the reality you have by your assumptions. So at this point, I'm done. The main thing I wanted to point out to us is it doesn't matter what your type of business or what the type of entity you are doing for. That's why I was very deliberate in putting this example. I could be a real estate agent. This will work for me also. How many deals am I able to get, and how much margin? So if I'm a real estate agent, we know that there are some real estate properties, maybe in Lagos now, I'm able to get 15% margin, or somewhere in Ogun State and the rest, maybe it's 5%. Maybe I can't get that much margin. Then what about value and count? Maybe I get more volume in those places than I get here. So you need to factor in all of that, and then maybe you break down your offerings and say, okay, Lagos events and Ibadan events, and then you do scenarios around them. So any questions as I wrap up today's section? Today's session. The other thing I was thinking I will show us, let me just show you since we are rounding up. If you have any question, please ask right away. I'm already trying to wrap up. I want to show you how I used to make this very interesting so let me just select. If I select all of this, I do conditional formatting on it. Right click, format cells. So I go to custom. I look for percentage. In fact, I pick percentage ahead. Percentage with no decimal place. I come back here. You see it's already here. So I'm going to say positive is this percentage above the conservative area. Conservative value. And then if it is minus, then I'm going to copy everything here and say below the conservative value. And that's all I'm going to do. Except if I want to do I can do for 0 anyway. So I can say for 0, same as the conservative value. Copy this out because I'm not sure you are seeing everything all at once very clearly. Copy. Once I do OK, that's what you will notice. See? Above conservative value, below value. I also like to align everything here. So if you come in here, right, if you say 5%, you just type 5%, it shows that one. If you put 0%, see, it says same as conservative value. What did I type here? Let me push what I type here so that you see it. So I'm going to copy this. This is for the positive amount. This is for the negative amount. And this is for the 0. So it's called custom format. We've done it in one of our sessions. I don't know if it was financial model or Excel session. So it's another very nice way of making your work mathematically usable and at the same time human readable, because this is a lot better than when I just wrote 0%. If you saw 0%, 0% relating to what? Then if you change it 10%, it shows above. If I change it to minus 3%, it shows below. Okay. So thank you very, very much. Any question before I draw the curtain? So let me give us this file. Let me give this file to us. We have a very interesting session coming up by 4 p.m. We have like a superstar. He's one of the big names in we have one of the big names in the Excel world. It's also now in Power BI, but if anybody has bought any Excel chart add-ins, or your company uses some Excel add-ins, I won't be surprised if they are his own add-ins. That's how big he is. So don't forget to join us for this by 4 p.m. Which is less than half an hour which is less than an hour from now. I'm trying to still upload the material, so let me just complete that. I think I've saved it already. So it's just to upload it on the last thing. storage, variable storage container. Upload. And I go pick the file. This is it. Upload. Good. I tell it to sort. Give me the download link. So the practice file, disable, yeah, this link. Thank you very, very much, and have a nice rest of the day. So, again, any questions or any comments? And just a small advert. If you are interested in our trainings, these are our next ones. So next week we have big data analysis, Power Query, Power Pivots. Then Excel, regular Excel, financial modeling is also happening next month. We already have some participants who have registered for that. And if you are in Abuja, Port Harcourt, also too, we have some classes that are run in Abuja and Port Harcourt. So thank you very, very much. I don't think I owe us any more things. I've shared the file, and I'm going to, the recording will be up by tomorrow. So thank you and have a nice Sunday. Bye-bye.